Good morning, boys and girls. Miss Janie again, and I'm so glad to be with you on this Monday morning. And last week we studied about Passover week and what happened to Jesus and how they had put him on the cross, and he died, and they put him in a tomb, and on that third day he rose again, just for you and for me. He died on that cross to cover our sin. So this week we're going to start a new series, and we're going to go back to the very beginning, way back to the beginning. You know, the Bible in the book of Genesis, Old Testament, first book, says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And it says the earth was without form and it was void. There was nothing to it. It was just a blob. But God took it in his hands and he shaped it. And God looked at it and he said, I'm going to make something out of that. I'm going to make a place where people can live and where they can raise families and they can do all these good things. But first, we have to do something with this darkness. So God looked at it, and the very first day, God separated the dark from the light, and he looked at it. He made it light where there was darkness. Have you ever taken a flashlight and shined it in a dark room? Oh, that light from that flashlight just makes everything bright. And that's what God did. God created light. And when God created light to separate that darkness, God looked at it and he said, "This is good." He liked what he'd done, and that was the very first day. But God looked at that day and that night, and he said, He said, look at that water. Look at that dark and light. I need to separate. I need a sky and a sea. So he separated and made a sky and a sea. Oh, now we have light and dark and sky and sea. How wonderful. And that was the second day. And God, you know what? God looked at that and he said, "That's good." Oh, God's just moving right along. Now, the third day, God looked down and he said, "That's an awful lot of water." He said, "My goodness, look at all that water. I think we need some land. I think we need some dirt that people could grow things in. I think we'll make some land." So God created some land. Oh, God looked at it and he said, "Ooh, look at this. Now, there's land and sea and sky and light and dark." And you know what? God looked at that and he said, "That's good." Then came to day 4. And God stood back and he looked at it and he said, "My goodness, there's land and there's water and there's sky, and there's day, and there's night. I need something else." He said, "I need something pretty." So you know what God did? He put trees and flowers. He said, "Oh, yes, look at this." There were plants and trees, all kinds. And God looked at that and he said, "This is good." That was day 4. Then, on day 5, God stood back and he looked at he looked at the night, he looked at the day, he looked at the water, the sky, the land, the beautiful trees and flowers. He looked at all that and he said, I need something else. So you know what God made? He made the fish, and He made the birds, and He made all those things. Oh my goodness. God said, "Oh, this is so good. This is so good." And He said, "Look now what all I've got." Oh, this was day 5. And there was fish and there was birds. Everything God had made. And He stood back and He said, "This is so good." And you know, boys and girls, there's not a thing that God makes that's not good. God does all things well. He made you and I. And you know, tomorrow, when you come back, it's going to be day 6. Wonder what God's got in store for day 6. These first 5 days, look at what all He did. The dark from light, the sky from the sea, the land, the trees, the flowers, the birds, the fish. My goodness, what else could God have in mind? Oh, come back and be with me tomorrow, and we'll see what God's got in store for us then.